There's no better education than getting out and seeing the world.
The experiences are what you're going to remember in the long run.
Getting out to see the world has just really opened my eyes to a lot of things.
I know a little bit about a lot of random things, and that's because of travel.
We're going to be able to learn so much about some really great destinations.
I'm excited about how this will improve our group itineraries.
I'm really looking forward to having great conversations about places. Welcome to Destination Dispatch.
Hello, I'm Jim Delleman with Group Travel Odyssey. I want to thank you all for joining us again today for another episode of Destination Dispatch. Before we get started and learning everything that we're going to learn about Richmond, Virginia, I did want to remind you, if you have not done so yet and you're watching us on YouTube, make sure to click the subscribe button. We would love for you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you ring the bell, you'll be notified anytime we have new content on our YouTube channel. As well as that, you can connect with us on LinkedIn at Group Travel Odyssey, and also make sure to like the Group Travel Odyssey Facebook page as well. Well, today we do have another fantastic destination that we're going to be talking about, and we're going to be learning so much about Richmond, Virginia. Before we do so, I do want to bring on our co-host today. He is the lead navigator with Group Travel Odyssey. Let's bring on Keith Snowd. Hey, Keith.
Hey, Jim.
How are you?
Well, not as windy as I was 3 hours ago, so it's
that's
all good.
Right. You had Nicole, right? Hurricane Nicole?
Yes, Nicole. We've had Ian and Nicole. They're our friends, I guess. Not so much.
Not so much. But, well, we're glad you made it through unscathed again, and we hope everybody else down in that region is safe.
Yes.
We know that this is
especially
kind of
the
late
people
in the year.
Especially people along the coast. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's kind of late in the year for these, so let's hope that this is it. Let's hope that the seas calm down and there are no more tropical storms that come across there. So fingers crossed. So Richmond, Keith, have you been to Richmond?
I have several times.
I was going to say you have to have. I've been to Richmond as well. I love Richmond, Virginia, and you know there's so much to do there. There's so much history. It's really truly an amazing place, and I think a lot of times it's a little bit too overlooked by some of our group planners. So we would definitely like to give them more of an insight as to what makes it so fantastic. When was the last time you were there?
Oh my gosh, it's probably been 7 or 8 years. Yeah, it's been a while.
Wow.
I've driven through there since then, but I have not stopped and spent time. It's
and I think that's what happens sometimes, though, is we do have, people, it's a location that, people drive through. It's a location that groups go from one place to the next, but let's get them to stop there. Let's get them to do that. Well, and to do so, let's bring on our expert. We're going to bring on from Visit Richmond, Virginia. Let's bring on Toni Bastian. Toni.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's so great to have you here. Keith and I were talking about how much we love Richmond, but also, we were talking about how so oftentimes people drive through or go from one place to the next and stop very briefly. And what we want to find out from you today is, what do you think it is that makes Richmond such a great place for people, for groups to come in and spend several days?
It's all about location. We are actually, I'm right now, literally on the screen and geographically in the middle of between New York and Florida. So we are located within a day's drive of more than the U.S. population. So it's location, and it's more than 400 years of history that will help you stay here. And groups will enjoy learning about the start of America, basically, the birth of America.
We planned that, Toni.
What's that?
I said we planned that. Your geographical thing.
Yeah. And and you said 7 or 8 years since you've been here. That's a lot has changed in 7 or 8 years. So
I can imagine.
Yes.
You were talking about history, and I don't think a lot of people realize exactly how rich the history is in Richmond itself. If people are learning about colonial history, what can they do there in Richmond?
There's so much they can do. We have more than 400 years of history. We have the historic James River that runs through our downtown. So with groups, there's history around every corner in the Richmond region. And if a group is already planning to see Williamsburg or Jamestown or going up to Charlottesville, then Richmond is actually a no-brainer to just stop here and, put that piece of the puzzle together with America history. So, and I can go into more detail about that in a little bit, but there's a lot going on here in Richmond.
Well, and a lot of people, when they think of history and they think of Virginia, they instantly go to Colonial Williamsburg. That's the first thing that they think of, obviously. And I think that a lot of people tend to forget that the entire state of Virginia, not let alone just Richmond, have just as much, if not more, history opportunities for people to discover than even Colonial Williamsburg, which is amazing. I'm not trying to discount it. I'm just saying that I think a lot of people sometimes overlook the fact that the entire state of Virginia, because of your proximity to Washington, D.C. and everything, really has a rich history, which is amazing to explore. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, which I think is amazing about the folks in Virginia, is you all work together quite a bit. So like if somebody's trying to curate a multi-day itinerary, you all are very helpful with each other, I've noticed. And I think that's something I applaud you.
One big happy family. We like to stay true to our brand, which is Virginia's for Lovers. And I have never worked with the most professional, wonderful group of people as my peers in the other destinations in Virginia. And, you're right. When a tour group comes down and they hit Fairfax, Virginia, Fairfax will call us and say, hey, we're sending these folks down the road to you. And I'll call Jim in Virginia Beach, we're sending folks down to you. So we are always in communication with each other. And the groups are well taken care of as soon as they cross the state line. Not that they're not taken care of in Maryland, because we love our Maryland friends, capital region. But in Virginia, we are really well connected, and the communication is always there. And a lot of us owe that to Virginia tourism also. That keeps us all connected.
What do you think in your region, Tone? What do you think groups tend to overlook the most that they should really focus on? Like what's something that a group that they consistently miss that they should be doing?
Well, I feel they consistently miss, as we had mentioned, Williamsburg, my friends right down the road. If we had the second successful English settlement in the New World, and a lot of people don't realize that. So when you're visiting Jamestown, Richmond was the very place where we had the second, the Henricus. The city of Henricus was established just 2 years after Jamestown. So there you go, more than 400 years of history. And a place like Henricus is a living museum, and it has the English settlement right next to the Indian settlement. So people don't realize, wow, it didn't just stop in Jamestown. And then you go through the colonial history. We were the third state capital after Williamsburg. So there's a lot of things going on here that put the pieces together. And I think it's a value added piece for tour operators to add to their itineraries. It's not, it's more than just a stop for dinner or a restroom driver break. It's it puts the story of America together right here in Richmond.
Now, is that place that you're talking about? Is that something that is like a morning activity, a full day? What it would
it's a morning. It'll take about 2 hours to go through the site, and that's on the itinerary that we can go through later.
Great.
So
Okay.
That's just one of the many things. You have right downtown, we have our state capitol, which was designed by Thomas Jefferson. So I think what tour operators are missing is just getting off the highway and just seeing what our city is all about, and understanding that, there's a lot of history here and a lot of current things that are happening here in Richmond, which really put us in the center of a cultural change in the country. So it was significant 400 years ago, and it's as significant it is today. So we didn't stop growing.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, I think, we were discussing briefly too, the diversity in Richmond. I don't think people really quite understand how much diversity there is there. It's not just one population. It's not just one segment of history.
Right.
But there is a lot going on. What are some of the diverse, I would say, activities or groups that you have coming in to learn more about that region?
Well, I wanted to read something that the Washington Post wrote about us, and they said, Richmond proves to the nation that our larger cultural divide over race is manageable, that it is possible to grapple with myths without erasing history, and to empower new voices without replacing old ones. And that, I think, encapsulates, oh my God, hello, what we feel about Richmond is that there's so much history, and we're just changing the narrative and telling it in all different voices. So,
well,
that's a powerful quote.
Yeah, very powerful. And I think that's one of the things that people can probably get there in Richmond more than some of the other larger areas they may be spending time in. One of the things we try to do for travel planners is to make them realize that there are so many fantastic locations and destinations out there, and Richmond is one of those. The rich in Richmond is very, very true. There's so much to do, and there's so many things that operators and tour planners can think of to do there for multiple days, covering history, covering culture, covering all of that, and just
from foodies to our murals, and our murals tell a story, because a lot of cities now, Jim, you can relate to this. I grew up in the Bronx, and what we called it was graffiti is now called street art.
Yeah.
And where people were washing off buildings, we now are having tours. So,
right.
We have, a matter of fact, a group is coming in. I have one of the artists who's involved in what we call mending walls, and it's community-based art projects around our city. And he's narrating a tour, jumping on a bus to narrate a tour about what our art means and the stories that they're telling. So it's there's so much more than people ever imagine here in Richmond. And it's 2 hours from DC. So you go from the big city, get your fix with the huge museums and the huge monuments and the hustle and bustle. And then you come into Richmond, and it's just like a breath of fresh air. We have the culture, we have the museums, we have the trendy shops and shopping, and the very well-renowned, world-renowned restaurants, but it's a little slower pace. It's a little more, you can't help but feel that you're part of the neighborhood when you come into Richmond.
Right.
Talking about coming into Richmond, what is the ease of people traveling to your location, both by bus and by air? So as you know, Richmond is located off of Interstate 95 and 64. So where they cross, we are right there. So coming from the west, coming from the north or south, we are literally right below Interstate 95. So buses, we have downtown properties, and there's never a problem with parking buses downtown. I know some tour companies get a little nervous bringing their buses into the city and seeing attractions that are really within our neighborhoods, but we do have permits and bus parking and whatnot. We have 2 Amtrak stations. So one is out in Staples Mill, about 9 miles west of downtown. And then we have the historic Main Street station, which services multiple trips a day from DC. So it's a quick trip from DC. Even if you're staying in DC and you just want to come down for 1 or 2 nights, it's less than about an hour, and you'll be right down in Richmond. And then, of course, our airport is now in Richmond International Airport. We have more and more nonstop flights coming in. We now have Southwest. We actually have nonstop flights. I've been with the Bureau for 20 years now. It'll be 20 years in August. We finally have Southwest. We have Breeze. We have Spirit. We have nonstop flights from San Francisco and LA, which is huge. Wow. So
that is great.
Excited about that.
And Breeze is certainly making some waves in the industry with what they're doing too. They're pretty interesting. So that's great.
And the nonstop flights are so easy because our airport is, where we're located. We're 50 miles from Williamsburg, 50 miles from Charlottesville, 2 hours from the beach. We have a lot of transportation companies that can provide buses. So just work with me. Let me know you're coming in, and I'm happy to put that all together.
That's great. That's great. You know, I was thinking about that too. And from terms of a transportation, you were talking about the groups and in your proximity to Florida, a lot of those groups from the Northeast that are going south, that whole proposition of overnight bus travel is no longer a proposition that they can utilize. You know, you're a perfect stopping point. And, you know, I think I really wish people would start thinking about those journeys more in terms of not just stopping to stay overnight, but stop and add some value to your trip.
That's exactly.
And, yeah. And you've got such good opportunities. You know, you talked about the first venue you talked about, you know, just to do a couple hours at some place and have a dinner and stay overnight. Even if you just did that, at least it gets you a little bit of a flavor of a different destination on your way to another one. So, I mean, yeah, I think people often don't think about that in planning group itineraries as well as we should.
Right. It's just, let's just not make a stopover off the interstate. Let's just make a stopover that's going to enrich someone's tour and help sell the tour and maybe help build it into the itinerary. So expand your tour. And one of the, I just got a call today from a tour operator. I was jumping up and down because they were just a few weeks. They're heading to Williamsburg, and they said, you know, we always drive through Richmond. We want to stop. What can we do? And those are the calls that are starting to come in now, of course, post pandemic, that I was, you know, stressing about in 2020. Like, are they going to come back? And they're coming back. So it was exciting.
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great. That's great. What about hotel? I mean, you talk about downtown hotel properties and things like that. You have a ton of group-friendly options. I know because I've stayed in a few of them. So
that was 7-8 years ago, Keith. That was a long time ago.
I know. You've probably built a whole new waft of hotels by now. There's like probably a whole new section of hotels.
We just opened up a brand new Moxie downtown. But yes,
oh my gosh, really? Moxie, that's awesome.
I cover like at least a 50-mile radius. Like my DMO. We have 7 jurisdictions I cover. So there's more than 18,000 hotel rooms. That's why I can't see every bus coming in and out of our region. I try to, but you know, they're all over the place. So yes, we have, you know, the Mox that just opened downtown. Is it group friendly? You know, it's a Moxie, but it's fun. It's right within walking distance of restaurants and whatnot. But we also have a jewelry property. I know a lot of tour operators love jewelries, and there's just every end of the spectrum types of rooms for groups. And our hoteliers we do a really good job. If I have to, you know, pat ourselves on the back, Richmond Region Tourism, with working with our hotel partners. We have a very close knit group. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of places are seasonal. But we know that Richmond is not seasonal. What kind of events and maybe festivals do you have that go on throughout the year in the Richmond region?
Great question, because you're right. There is always something to do. For instance, we are now sliding on into the holiday season. So we have King's Dominion now just announced they're going to be open all year. So just a few years ago, King's Dominion, which is located, which is a Cedar Park amusement park, is just north of Richmond, and they started Winterfest, and they had just finished the Halloween haunt. So they're going to be opening up again in March. So we have Winterfest. We have in the holiday season, Garden Fest of Lights with Lewis Ginter Botanical Garden. They start in just the day after Thanksgiving. They don't end till the second week in January. I mean, that's a large window.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as far as festivals they start up around March, April. We just had the marathon. I had the marathon was just here, or it's coming here this weekend. I'm sorry. A wonderful festival. It's called the Folk Festival. And that's been probably about 15, 16 years now. It's been going on. If you look behind me, it's right along the river, and it's 3 days of music and vendors and food, and it's free. And this is one thing I'm always trying to get groups to do, because they can stay at a downtown hotel and let your guests just have time on their own exploring the festival, and then throw in some touring in between. So we're very outdoor city. So we have a lot of sporting events. It's just all kinds of festivals.
That's fantastic. That's really great. And also, like you were saying, you're right there on the river, and to be able to have festival space and to be able to have things that can incorporate the water and can incorporate that river and that view is just spectacular. You know, it's who doesn't want to spend time on the water?
Yes,
well, I know.
So I have one question I have to get in because we can't do a single Destination Dispatch episode without talking about food. So
we don't have any food here. None whatsoever. We have more than 900 restaurants in our region. We have restaurants that have been nominated for the James Beard. We have a lot of soul food restaurants. We support our Black-owned restaurants through what we have is Black RVA. That's BLKRVA.com. We have just group-friendly restaurants. A lot of tour operators may remember the Tobacco Company, historic property in Shockoe Slip. They have a gated elevator, open seating area, and then a gated elevator. It's just a lot of restaurants, and we have some great food tours. I am working on putting together more progressive dinners. I think groups have started to like that because we have restaurants that are within walking distance, and I've noticed in the last 19 years, we're getting little neighborhoods that are popping up together with these restaurants that are within walking distance of one another. So that's exciting. Lots of good restaurants.
I love that idea of a progressive dinner like that too. I mean, what group would not want to do that? And it gives them an opportunity to taste from several different places in one evening. I mean, phenomenal idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great. Absolutely.
Well, listen, we want to continue the conversation, and we will do so. But first of all, we need to hear a couple words about our partners.
Group Travel Odyssey would like to take a moment to thank our amazing partners, including Book My Group, Travel Advocates, We Travel, Broadway Inbound, and Fly My Group. These partnerships help make business without boundaries possible, and we encourage our viewers to learn more about these wonderful companies. Now, back to Destination Dispatch.
Okay, we are back. And now what I would like to do, I'm going to turn things over to Keith and Toni, and we're going to walk through a sample itinerary, something that you guys will be able to take a look at to see exactly what there is to do with your groups in Richmond. So take it away.
Great. Well, thanks, Jim. Just a reminder to all of our GTO members that you can access this itinerary in the Visit Richmond record in Supplier Manager, or you can actually search this itinerary specifically in the Template Trips feature in Sales Manager and copy it directly and use it as a starting point for your next trip to Richmond. So it's all available for you right there. I'm going to let Toni walk us through this itinerary step by step and tell us a little bit more about Richmond.
Great. Yes, so I selected the Colonial History Tour. Of course, we have many tours, and you would, as we talked about before, you can do a food tour, a garden tour, outdoor soft adventure itinerary. So for now, we're just going to focus on the Colonial. You got me thinking about food.
See, we have that effect.
So this is, I'm assuming groups are coming in maybe later in the day. They've been on the road for a while, so they're going to want to stop at the James River Cellars Winery, located just north of Richmond. And it's one of Richmond's oldest wineries. And it'll be a nice time to sit outside on their beautiful patios just off the Interstate of 95 and enjoy some libations. And then from there, they can head on over to their hotel and check in. As I mentioned, we have 18,000 hotel rooms. We'll find one that's perfect for each group. And we have a wonderful venue called the Renaissance. And the Renaissance is actually downtown Richmond. And it's an opulent venue, is located, as I said, downtown. It offers ballroom style, beautiful Victorian decorated ballroom. They offered plated buffet dinners. And what I like about the Renaissance is that it's a one price for everything. So part of that, you can't have dinner without a little entertainment. We work with a company that does First Ladies of Fashion show. So what she does is our friend Liz brings in models who have period style clothes, and they do a fashion show, which our tour operators just love. And what we like to say is behind every successful man is a woman. So, and it's so true for our founding presidents and their first ladies, as well as our early settlers.
That's a fantastic idea. That's really good.
It's fun. Takes about an hour or so, but it's good entertainment during dinner, and that Renaissance is a perfect location for that. So the next day, we like to give our groups an overview of our city. Well, either you can do a trolley tour or you can do step-on guides, whatever is more comfortable for your group. And then you'll be traveling through the historic neighborhoods for a 2-hour tour with one of our historians. And as we were talking about her earlier, Henricus Historical Park, that's just south of Richmond. And that is the second successful English settlement in the New World. And that's where Pocahontas met John Rolfe. So this is a must-see if you are already planning a visit to Jamestown, because in 1611, under the orders from the Virginia Company of London, 300 musketeers led by Sir Thomas Dale arrived in the struggling Virginia colony to establish a new capital far from the unhealthy swamps of Jamestown. Now, I'm not saying Jamestown is a lovely destination, but in 1611, they needed a little more space for them and drier land. So they traveled 80 miles west up our James River and under the constant threat of the Powhatan Indians and the Spanish. And they established this new city in Henricus. And it's named for the eldest son of King James, Prince Henry Frederick. But what's beautiful about this living museum, it's located on a bluff and it overlooks the James River. It's an outdoor reenactment. You have the English village right next to the Indian village. They also have a community room that's good for if you want to bring in a box lunch, or you can do a lunch outside, and they have a gift shop. So it's a museum that keeps history alive. I figure about 2 hours or so at that museum.
That's great.
And then you'll want to get some lunch. And as I mentioned, we have a lot of group options. We have an area called the Shockoe Slip area, and it's a historic downtown cobblestone street. And there's a place called Sinead Irish Pub, and they work really wonderfully with groups. So that may be a good option for contemporary American and Irish fare.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, you can make arrangements ahead of time to do a reenactment at St. John's Church. And you can also either just do a tour of St. John's, or you can talk to them and do a full reenactment. It's up to what your group would like to do. But what you're going to do is from Sinead Pub, you're going to travel up one of Richmond's 7 hills. We're known for our hills in Richmond, and into the historic neighborhood of Churchill. And it's here where Patrick Henry fanned the flames of liberty with his stirring "Give Me Liberty" or "Give Me Death" speech. And there you have local actors where they come in and they sit right next to you in the church pews, and they act out the whole speech. So you're part of the action. So it's a really wonderful group event. Our groups love this.
That would be a cool experience, Toni.
Yeah,
I would love that.
Oh, it is. It's definitely and something that actually I want to get our company. We're going to do an employee day trip there because we haven't done that in a while. But our groups just love it there. So then for dinner, we're going to head just north of Richmond to Hanover Tavern. And Patrick Henry favored this tavern. He actually worked there as he was going through law school. So that's pretty exciting. A lot of history in those walls.
Yeah.
Even George Washington stopped there for dinner. It's a beautiful tavern. They can have a costumed Patrick Henry there for you want to share some stories. They also have a theater performance down on the bottom of the Hanover Tavern, so you can do dinner upstairs and go on downstairs for a show. By a professional theater company over there.
And are those shows, like, do they have a schedule of shows that you can
look
at, things like
that?
Okay, that's great. Yeah.
And that's that's definitely on a schedule. You're welcome to look at that. And they do have some blackout dates, but mostly they run their shows from March through November. So they have a good amount of shows there.
That's great.
So for dinner, there's so many group-friendly restaurants. I'm happy to help find a group-friendly restaurant. But the next day, you're going to stop. The first stop will be at the Virginia State Capitol, and you're going to tour America's most historic building, designed by Thomas Jefferson, and it was opened in 1788. So those tours are free, and again,
And Aaron Burr's trial was at that Capitol building. Wow,
yeah,
I didn't realize that. That's cool.
And then next, we're going to head over to Wilton House. This 1733 plantation served as Lafayette's headquarters.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. See, told you a lot of history here. People don't even
Yeah.
realize it. You can't see it all from the interstate. You need to get off the interstate. We tried to put up signs and show everyone, look what's here, but you got to get off the interstate.
You should just put a sign that says interstate closed, detour this way.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there was a sign put up like that, and it's called 295.
Oh,
So unfortunately, that 295 sent people right around Richmond. So that's the existence. So with the Wilton House, it was where George Washington and Thomas Jefferson are one of the famous visitors that were there, and they have a collection of early American decorative arts. You can contact them, and they can possibly do a archaeology workshop where you put on gloves and you are able to take a look and learn about all the colonial artifacts there. So it's a little interactive, immersive experience. And you can't come to Richmond without getting the vibe and the cool, hip place of Kerrytown. So I love this place for groups to have lunch on their own. We have a great bus drop-off area. It's 6 blocks of restaurants, and don't eat too much because there's about 3 dessert places. Ooh. There's shops. There's everything from McDonald's to a French cafe to farm to table to a draft room. So I always suggest groups have about 2 hours, and it's a one-way street. So you walk down one end and you walk up the other. You're not going to lose your guests. They're not going to be wandering all over Richmond. Pretty easy not to get lost there.
Question, Toni. I know that several of our tour operators now include, like, if they include all the meals, they'll do something like that, but they'll include some money on a gift card or something that the guests can actually pay for lunch. How much do you think that they should budget for that? $25 per person would give them enough for a decent meal?
Oh, that'd be plenty. That'd be plenty.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, definitely about $25 a person.
Okay. So, just wondering. Yep. Great.
Yeah. You're going for lunch. You might want to add more if you're going for dinner, but for lunch is such a wide variety of food options there. Then after you do a little shopping, you want to rest those feet, and you want to go up to Fulton, again on top of another hill, and hit the Triple Crossing Brew Pub and have some charcuterie boards and some of Richmond's famous craft beers, and overlooking the skyline, and then head on back to your hotel for some more dinner. And again, more group-friendly restaurants. One thing I wanted to add is that I'm excited because we have a few museums that are open late now. So, the typical, let's just go get them dinner and a theater and a show. And it's hard because we don't have a dinner theater in downtown Richmond. So what I like to suggest, if you're coming in on a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, have your group have dinner, but then bring them to the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts or the Virginia Museum of History and Culture and do a visit in the evening, because the lights and the way the everything is lit up at night, it's just absolutely beautiful. And it's a very quiet, calming place to visit in the evening, and a unique thing to do in the evening.
Yeah.
That's great. That's fantastic. I love going to museums in the evenings.
Right?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. We're not done yet.
We're not done yet. We got day 4.
We have the Tahoe Plantation. Thomas Jefferson grew up. So again, they do private tours. It's just west of downtown, so it's perfect. You can even do a box lunch there if you like, or go over to. I would say this isn't on the itinerary, but if you're going to Tahoe Plantation, you can come back downtown and do a lunch at Maymont, a 100-acre downtown beautiful private park, and you can bring in a box lunch there, and they have, it's stunning. It's Richmond's gem called Maymont Park.
Wow.
Then you can head over to Patrick Henry's Scotchtown. And that's a fabulous, really unique story over there. And Patrick Henry, he lived there with his family, and the bottom floor is open. Now they're opening up the basement because there's a lot of history and artifacts are in the basement. So they're doing that. And it's a beautiful land that they're on. They have a pavilion there. We can outdoor, you can have some food out there. And then they do offer some hands-on workshop, such as biscuit making or wool carving. And you'll go from like the main house to the kitchen, which is separate building, to then have a little gift shop. So it's a beautiful way to spend an afternoon.
That's really cool. I love the fact that a lot of these places are adding workshops and going through some of these artisanal things that are kind of disappearing. And, you know, just to give people an opportunity to experience things the way that they were back then, I think it's such a great experience for groups. Such a great experience.
No, I agree. And I think that it's interesting because of the breadth of historic experiences you can have in Richmond over these 4 days is just amazing. You know, you really can touch on so many different storylines in history, and it's really fascinating to see all of that in one itinerary. I think it's brilliant. It's great. I think groups should do it now.
I know, they should do it right now. I also want to add, you know, there's so much more. I have a great storyteller. So when we're talking about, go back to your hotel, find a group friendly restaurant, I'm able to find someone who can come in and maybe do some history tour, some history storytelling. If you need some entertainment, you know, we have a great little jazz trio that can come out and entertain the group. That's pretty reasonable. So there are things you can add, but you're only going to know that when you contact us, or GTO contacts us. You know, we can add those little things onto your tour. And as I mentioned, I would personally be happy to greet the groups. We provide a small gift for your guests. I like to give the tour escorts my cell number, so when they're in town, anything should come up, I'm right here. I can help them. And then lastly, we do have a group tour incentive. So if they book rooms in Richmond, we turn around and we reimburse, give a cash rebate on rooms booked here in Richmond. So just anything to help our tour operators.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for reviewing the itinerary. It's a really fantastic itinerary that I can't imagine a group not enjoying, adult, student, no matter what. It's really awesome.
I can't imagine you haven't stopped here in 8 years. So.
You know, a lot's happened at that age.
I'm going to put a sign on I'm going to put a thing on the highway. Is that if you drive by again, your car is going to automatically go off the highway and right downtown. See all that we have, because you guys are invited here to see firsthand what we have here in Richmond, and any tour operators that wanted to do a site visit, please just let me know.
That's fantastic. So that's really, really great. And I know we've been putting your information up, and I'll put it up again. If they do want to get in touch with you and find out more, how can they do that? I have your email right here. So
email's the best way. And again, check our website, visit richmondva.com. You can go on the group tour page on Visit Richmond, but also that entire website is full of information and would probably get your ideas working over time, and anything that you see that I may not have presented that you might be interested in, just let me know. We can work up any itinerary to meet the needs of your group.
Great.
Yeah.
And also you have a rather robust social media, and so they can follow Visit Richmond VA on social media as well. And as we said, even with our YouTube, make sure that you do subscribe to Visit Richmond VA's YouTube channel on YouTube as well.
Yeah, and I'm happy to provide high-res images, videos, whatever you need to help sell a tour. And as we're doing here, I'm happy to provide, a Zoom presentation of our destination. We want to help you fill the buses, and we want to, help you be successful. And by making sure that your guests have a good experience, that's how you're going to be successful.
Well, I think that they're definitely on the right track if they're coming into Richmond to have a fantastic experience, because you've given us so many ideas and so many wonderful, vibrant, historic ideas for people to come and experience. And like you were saying, not just colonial and pre-colonial history, but also the diversity and everything that's been happening recently in Richmond, and such a perfect example of a city that has this rich history, but is also embracing today's social changes as well. So, it's really great to find that right there in your area. So, there's something for everybody. So y'all need to make sure to contact Toni so that way she can help you with some of these itineraries, because we expect all of you to be booking your groups into Richmond, Virginia very, very soon.
Absolutely.
So Toni, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure having you here, and we look forward to seeing you at a trade show very, very soon.
Yes. I'll be there.
Okay, take care.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Just a reminder that Destination Dispatch does happen on Thursdays. On Thursdays at 2:00 Eastern Time, we do love to take you to wonderful destinations like Richmond and give you ideas, out-of-the-box ideas for some wonderful places that you can take your groups. So that way you can be a rock star with your groups and you can take them to places that they've not been before. So make sure to join us on Thursdays for Destination Dispatch. Also on Tuesdays, we do have, every other Tuesday, let me put it that way. Every other Tuesday, we have GTO Coach and Go. And GTO Coach and Go is a coaching session that we do with some of the experts from our team to give you ideas and updates and show you how to use GTO more efficiently. So that way you can book your groups into Richmond and places like that. So that's on every other Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern as well, GTO Coach and Go. Keith, if they want to learn more about Group Travel Odyssey, how can they do that?
So they should go to our website, grouptravelodyssey.com, or they can go to Facebook, LinkedIn, or as Jim has mentioned, our YouTube channel. Check us out there. You can get in touch with any of us in any of those locations. We are happy to give you a demo. I would encourage you, if you're curious, go to our YouTube page and look at the video. It's called The 10 Reasons to Join GTO. It'll give you a good overview about who we are. You can access that on our YouTube page and also on our website.
Fantastic. Some great information today. And Keith, it's always wonderful spending Thursdays with you.
Yes.
Just want to shout out to Stevie, who's hopefully traveling back to your area today. I know with flight changes and stuff like that, he was at a conference and trying to find his way after all the cancellations and stuff, to find his way back to the Orlando area. So hopefully Stevie will be there, and I'm sure he'll be joining us again next time. So,
and check out, and just a shout out for him, check out his podcast, Destinations Beyond Expectations. It's available on anywhere you listen to a podcast, and I'm sure he will have a new episode dropping tomorrow.
That's right. Every Friday, Destinations Beyond Expectations podcast. So, well, until next time, Keith, it's been great spending time with you. And it was wonderful learning all of the information from Toni today about Richmond. And we hope to see you again very, very soon. Take care.
Group Travel Odyssey. Thank you for watching this episode of Destination Dispatch. We invite you to stay connected with Group Travel Odyssey on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And be sure to check out more of our media, including GTO Coach and Go and the Destinations Beyond Expectations podcast. Please visit our website, grouptravelodyssey.com, where you can learn more about GTO and request a demo. Group Travel Odyssey, business without boundaries.